Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Kiali Sprint 38 summary and demos, April 24. So today we are going to have several speakers. So Fabio from IBM Research, which is going to tell us about the Iterate project and the integration with Kiali. And from Kiali team, we will have Kainya, who will tell us about the features, about graph and other pages. And also, finally, Power from the Jaeger team will tell us some, will demo some integration between Jaeger and G Rpc. So I will start with a quick summary where we are. So this is the Sprint 38. You know, as always, all our sprints are public, so you can see under Kiali projects where we are, what are the issues that we work on, what are done, what are the review, what is in progress. So I invite everyone from the community to tell us, to help us to add priorities, what is more important for you, and and participate with us to work on the project. Just from my side, a couple of highlights that what we are doing in the list pages and in the details pages. So in the overview list page views, now we have an aims. We add a new view for see the namespace. Remember, so we have this overview to show the namespace status. Right, we have some summarizes view with minor car when we can see what happened. Now we have add a new large view based on table. We can also order and see the status, and also the more important to see all the namespace labels of these items. You can manage sorting, filtering. Another interesting features that we introduce is in this sprint is the capacity to filter by labels, right, on all the list pages and overview too. So we can just do filter by the label presence, by label value with one or more values, and that will help us also to to focus more and to search, to do more granularity search on information. One of the change is that you will see that now in the list the labels are highlighted where that could be the results of one of these features. So thank you, Alberto, for working on that, right? And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I let to Fabio to tell us, to take the stage and to tell the news about the introduction about Iterate project and the integration with Kiali. So Fabio, thank you for joining to our demo and be my guest. And
thanks, Lucas. Can you hear me and see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna go over in a quick overview of the Iterate project and the work that we've been doing together with the Kiali team on integrating Iterate with Kiali using the Kiali extensions framework. So this is an overall kind of overarching idea here. So the vision for the project is to be able to kind of empower developers of cloud applications to be able to do continuous experimentation. By that I mean canary releases and A/B tests driven by strong AI and analytics capabilities. So you see on the right here a quick diagram of how Iterate kind of works for this type of scenario. So imagine that you have a version 1 of one of your microservices, and now you want to deploy version 2, perhaps to do a canary test to test in production. So in Istio, these microservice versions will get their telemetry information collected transparently. So there is a lot of information about how these different versions are working. And they flow into Prometheus, they flow into Jaeger, etc. So there is one component here that we call Iterate Analytics that is essentially looking at these metrics coming from the versions that are part of so-called experiment. And it's making assessments of whether or not candidate versions that you're considering are performing well with respect to success criteria that you define, and compare the versions. And a result of that assessment is a recommendation for how the traffic should be split across these versions in order for things to continue working well, if things are passing your success criteria, etc. So, and then this feedback loop keeps on going. Telemetry data from Istio flows into the metrics store. It's the trade controller periodically calls analytics to get an assessment, and then it makes the traffic split changes, and this keeps going on and on until either a candidate is declared to be the winner, and all the traffic is gradually shifting towards that, or a rollback happens. Right. So and of course, you define your success criteria, define what metrics you care about, etc. We're going to see this in a minute. We made a few kind of design decisions here internally. We want to clearly separate, the controller, which is the platform-specific part of Iterate, where it actually programs in the line infrastructure to, for instance, the traffic management, from the actual analytics, which is the piece that knows how to interpret the data and to perform statistically robust, statistically sound analysis to come up with a strong assessment and recommendation. Right, and of course, all the Istio metrics that come out of the box are supported by Iterate, but in principle, anything that you have in Prometheus that you might want to consider to perform the experiments can be used. Now, this is how things come together with Kiali, right? So what drives these, let's say, a canary release or an A/B test is the notion of an experiment. You create an experiment CR YAML file. Normally, if you do it manually, if you do it through Kiali, you have a form or a wizard-based approach where you're going to provide values for certain fields, like what metrics you care about, how long should your canary release or A/B test last for, how frequently should the controller talk to analytics, etc. So that creates a CR on your Kubernetes cluster. The controller picks up that CR and start periodically calling analytics. Analytics will get the data from Prometheus. We'll provide the recommendation to the controller, and the controller will manipulate Istio virtual service and destination rules objects so that the recommended traffic control is applied. And of course, you can watch all of that on Kiali. You can not only can you create such an experiment using Kiali, but you can also watch it on Kiali, on the Kiali UI, as we're going to see some screenshots next. So imagine that you have, have a booking application, you have reviews version 2, you want to roll out reviews version 3. So you go ahead, use the Kiali wizard or the form-based approach. You create this experiment. You specify that your baseline is reviews v2. You specify that your candidate is reviews v3, and you start the experiment. So right now, at this point in time, Kiali is showing you that the experiment is in pause state because reviews v3 hasn't been deployed yet. So we have all the traffic going to reviews v2, right? The kind of the underlying CR, we have information like this. So we have baseline candidate reviews v2 v3. You have the interval during which the interval for the iteration for how frequently analytics will make an assessment. You have for how many percentage points the traffic should change at each iteration, etc. You have this definition of success criteria as well. In this case, you're saying, I'm interested in the mean latency and I want an absolute threshold of 200 milliseconds to be observed. You can mix and match multiple success criteria. So let's say now the developer goes and deploys reviews version 3. At that point in time, Iterate starts doing the entire automation of the process, and you see now Kiali showing that the traffic would be now at 80-20%, and the iterations go. And for each iteration, you can actually watch what's going on. Here we are at iteration 4 already. The traffic is at 40-60%. Most of the traffic is actually going now to reviews v3. On the details view on Kiali, you see the actual measured traffic split on the graph. You're seeing that the green line is showing that the traffic to version 3 is increasing, while the traffic to version 2 is decreasing as expected. You can also obviously on Kiali see the other metrics corresponding to these versions. In this particular case, latency was declared as a important factor for the success criteria. So you can navigate through the Kiali views and look at the metrics as well. So, and then eventually, again, now we have 20-80%, and you are in this particular screenshot, you are on iteration 6 already. Of course, this was a we did a very, very quick run for kind of 30-second iterations, and to kind of make this quick, right? So eventually you get to a point where if things go well, right, all the traffic will be switched over to Reviews version 3, and the baseline Reviews version 2 is essentially out of the picture at this point, right? No traffic going to it. So that is kind of the basic idea. So as you see, when you install the iterate extensions on Kiali, on the left side, you're going to see there is another menu kind of view called iterate experiment, right? That's what takes you to the list of experiments, and then you can go into the details and see, what I showed you. And so again, this is still there is a kind of end-to-end integration already merged with the Kiali master, but this is still ongoing, and we are making improvements to it as well. Now, why are we bringing together, iterate and Kiali? So why does it matter, right? So we see the benefits for Istio in our mind is that this allows us to increase focus on developer-centered concerns using the de facto kind of open Istio UI, which is Kiali, right? So Istio is a lot about kind of more focus on the operation side of things. So if you can do, very, very effective work to increase the focus on developer-centered concerns, that goes a long way. So specifically, this integration kind of will encourage people to release code more often and have, automatic safeguards in place to provide developers peace of mind. And they can rely on Kiali to observe, what's going on when they release the code, and double check, see the version comparisons, all the analysis and insights that will in the future also be surfaced there, etc. So that's kind of, developer-centric work. That's the key message here, right? The benefits for Iterate is that, iterating when integrated with Kiali, it's really using and leveraging, issue-specific tooling. That is the right place to be for, managing these online experiments and presenting insights to developers. Now, even if, this type of experiment CR gets triggered by, let's say, a CI/CD pipeline, which is a very common use case, you can still go to use Kiali as the tool to observe things as it happens. So we don't have necessarily to create an experiment in Kiali, but you can, even if you don't, you can go to Kiali to watch what's going on. But if you prefer, you can also, manipulate the experiments, the canary release and the tests on Kiali as well. It's entirely, whatever makes sense for your particular use case. Now, what's next? So Iterate is under active development. There is a lot of new things coming down the pipeline. We're planning a major release towards the end of May. We keep, brushing and improving all the analytics and AI-based algorithms to kind of automate and control the traffic and do the version analysis. The Iterate and Kiali integration, as I mentioned, is still it's under active development. We'll keep pushing it for us, to kind of improve it, look and feel. We're talking to the Kiali UX team to make sure that we have a nicer integration experience there. We have a presentation accepted at KubeCon Europe. I don't know if it is going to turn out to be a virtual conference given the current state of affairs, but we do have a presentation there. The title is Next Generation of CI/CD, Analytics-Driven Traffic and Management Kubernetes, and we'll obviously feature the Kiali integration there as well because we see that as a central piece. So I didn't want to take too much time, so I was a little quick here. So this is my last slide, so I'm going to stop now and hand over to the next speaker at this point.
Thank you a lot, Fabio, for introducing Iterate and just to give an update of the active working that we are doing together with the integration. And yeah, it's great. So next one will be Kainya that will present us some updates also in other areas of Kiali. So Kainya, would you like to share your screen?
Yep, get it.
Can you guys see my screen? Okay,
yes.
That was me. Sorry. Hello, I'm Kainan from the Kiali team. From the Saturn, which one of the team from Kiali. So this one is going to be a pretty quick one. So the first one is that for this release, we added a more powerful workload pods workloads page where you can now see the logs for all the containers at the same time, instead of what you had before, where you would have to choose which one you're going to see, so you can see both at the same time. You can also use the splitter to move them up and down and have a proper viewing of the logs. So the idea is that you can go deeper on it. The second one is from the graph page. We have been trying for quite a long time, actually, to find ways to reduce the amount of vertical space that we use, especially on the graph, because it is big. It should show lots of stuff, but we do not have that much space because of the sidebar, because of the top bar. So this is one of the changes that we did, where we removed the header and combined them into just two toolbars that use less space. So you should see more on your graph now. And the last one is that for the list pages, for all of them, so applications, workloads, you can see that we added the same refresh controller that we are using on the graph page. So you can have more, you can also have more control on that. You can, instead of just seeing the amount of data they're going to see, you can also check the refresh and have the same refresh option that you can use on the graph. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. There's one honorable mention that it doesn't have anything to show, but it's important. If you do have a custom environment that uses Istio 1.5 or more, and also you're still using telemetry v1, which does have the mixer, it should not break anymore, and if it does, it is a bug, so please report it. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you, Kainya. To finish the demo, Pavel from the Jaeger team is going to demo us how to integrate Jaeger via gRPC. So, Pavel?
So hello everybody, and now I'd like to tell you something about Jaeger and G Rpc. So there are a lot of use cases when you would like to integrate with Jaeger. So for example, you can do something similar to Kiali. So you need, for example, to query data from Jaeger. But other use case might be that you would like to use Jaeger in your tests, in your, for example, unit tests. So for example, to either verify that your tracing integration works, but also to use tracing data as a validation that your distributed system works. So first thing I would like to show you how you can actually generate Jaeger model, but also gRPC classes. And to really make it simple, we created a Docker container that contains all Jaeger proto definitions. And when you want to generate the classes, you just call docker run, and you provide a path to the proto you would like to use. I will show you some example from my project. So here, the proto C is the Docker, is called to Docker. I just wrap it into proto variable, and then I'm just providing Java out and providing the path to the proto file. Then second call is very similar, but now I'm generating the query model and gRPC service. And last two calls are generating some dependencies. Because our services are using other proto definitions, we have to include those and make sure those dependencies are on our class path, to make it work. And nice things about this is that all protos are inside the Docker container, so you don't have to search for them. It's just you provide the path from the Docker container, and the image, the container will generate the Java classes. So in this case, I'm generating the classes to the proto artifact, which are here. So we see the Jaeger classes, but also some dependencies. Okay, so the next thing what we did is actually make it easier for people to use Jaeger inside tests, inside JUnit tests. There is a nice library called test containers, and test containers basically allows you to run any Docker container inside your test environment, inside your JUnit. So we provided an implementation for Jaeger all-in-one, and nice part about this is that it actually also gives you access to the tracer and a query service. So you don't have to do any configuration, and you don't have to manually wire these different components together. You just run the container, and then you get the tracer or you get the query service. So an example is here. As you can see, there is the all-in-one container. We just started, and then in the test, we get the tracer from the container. We generate some span, and then we get the query service, and then we are validating whether the span or the trace has been properly generated and it's available for query from the Jaeger service. Okay, this is everything that I have for today.
Okay. So thank you everyone, to all the speakers, and thank you all the attendees. So as usual, this is the work in progress that we have for the Sprint 38 in 3 weeks. We do another demo for the Sprint 39 to show what is the progress of our projects. So feel free to jump into our project issues to see what we are doing to help us to identify priorities, ideas that you want to see there. Thank you all the speakers, and thank you for watching. See you next week. Bye-bye.